Francis Wrights' speech on Independence Day. Our hearts should expand on this day, which calls to memory the conquest achieved by knowledge over ignorance, willing cooperation over blind obedience, opinion over prejudice, new ways over old ways, when, 52 years ago, America declared her national independence and associated it with her Republic Federation. Reasonable it is to rejoice on this day, and useful to reflect thereon, so that we rejoice for the real, and not any imaginary, good, and reflect on the positive advantages obtained, and on those which it is our farther to acquire. Dating, as we justly may, a new era in the history of man from the 4th of July, 1776, it would be well, that is, it would be useful, if on each anniversary we examine the progress made by our species in just knowledge and just practice. Each 4th of July would then stand as a tide mark in the flood of time by which to ascertain the advantage of the human intellect, by which to note the rise and fall of each successive error, the discovery of each important truth, the gradual melioration in our public institutions, social arrangements, and above all, in our moral feelings and mental views. In continental Europe, of late years, the word patriotism and patriot have been used in a more enlarged sense than it is usual here to attribute to them, or than is attached to them in Great Britain. Since the political struggles of France, Italy, Spain, and Greece, the word patriotism has been employed throughout continental Europe to express a love of the public good, a preference for the interests of the many to those of the few, a desire for the emancipation of the human race from the thrall of despotism, religious and civil. In short, patriotism there is used rather to express the interest felt in the human race in general than that felt for any country, or inhabitants of a country in particular. And patriot, in like manner, is employed to signify a lover of human liberty and human improvement, rather than a mere lover of the country in which he lives, or the tribe to which he belongs. Used in this sense, patriotism is a virtue, and a patriot a virtuous man. With such an interpretation, a patriot is a useful member of society, capable of enlarging all minds and bettering all hearts with which he comes in contact. A useful member of the human family, capable of establishing fundamental principles and of merging his own interests, those of his associates, and those of his nation in the interests of the human race. Laurels and statues are vain things, and mischievous as they are childish, but could we imagine them of use? On such a patriot alone could they with any reason be bestowed. If such a patriotism as we have last considered should seem likely to obtain in any country, it should be certainly in this which is truly the home of all nations, and in the veins of whose citizens flows the blood of every people on the globe. Patriotism, in the exclusive meaning, is surely not made for America. Mischievous everywhere, it were here both mischievous and absurd. The very origin of the people is opposed to it. The institutions, in their principle, militate against it. The day we are celebrating protests against it. It is for Americans, more especially, to nourish a nobler sentiment, one more consistent with their origin, and more conducive to their future improvement. It is for them more especially to know why they love their country, and to feel that they love it, not because it is their country, but because it is the palladium of human liberty, the favored scene of human improvement. It is for them, more especially, to examine their institutions, and to feel that they honor them because they are based on just principles. It is for them, more especially, to examine their institutions because they have the means of improving them, to examine their laws because at will they can alter them. It is for them to lay aside luxury, whose wealth is in industry, idle parade, whose strength is in knowledge, ambitious distinctions, whose principle is equality. It is for them not to rest, satisfied with words, who can seize upon things, and to remember that equality means not the mere equality of political rights, however valuable, but equality of instruction and equality in virtue, and that liberty means not the mere voting at elections, but the free and fearless exercise of the mental faculties, and that self-possession which springs out of well-reasoned opinions and consistent practice. It is for them to honor principles rather than men, to commemorate events rather than days, when they rejoice, to know what they rejoice, and to rejoice only for what has brought and what brings peace and happiness to men. The event we commemorate this day has procured much of both, and shall procure in the onward course of human improvement more than we can now conceive of. For this, for the good obtained and yet in store for our race, let us rejoice. But let us rejoice as men, not as children, as human beings rather than as Americans, as reasonable beings, not as ignorants. So shall we rejoice to good purpose and in good feeling. So shall we improve the victory once on this day achieved, until all mankind hold with us the Jubilee of Independence.